Hi, I'm Nyla Solon. I'm 32, a financial analyst, partial insomniac, and apparently the +1 to my own bloodline. This past June, my parents nearly cracked my skull open with a champagne bottle at my older brother's birthday party because I wouldn't hand over the deed to my Austin condo. But that's not where the story begins. No, the unraveling started far before bruises and betrayal. It started with a missing name on a guest list. It was one of those syrupy summer evenings where the heat clings to your skin like guilt. I pulled up to my parents' house in River Hollow, a gated neighborhood so pristine even the birds seemed to chirp in moderation. My car, a dusty blue Camry with faded bumper stickers, looked tragically humble parked between matte black Teslas and spotless Escalades. I stepped out smoothing the front of my plain black shift dress. I had on minimal makeup and a gift bag in hand, a custom leather-bound notebook for my brother's promotion/birthday combo celebration. He was turning 38. Not that he ever needed a reason for the Reynolds to throw a party. The driveway was lit up like an Instagram dream, fairy lights, waiters in white gloves, a jazz trio humming Sinatra near the garden arch. This wasn't just a party, this was performance art. A valet with cheekbones sharp enough to slice sushi greeted me. Name: Nyla Solon, I said, shifting the bag to my other hand. He flipped through a tablet, paused, then squinted. You're, listed here, +1. Under the Solon family group. My fingers stiffened around the bag handles. I leaned in. Sorry, +1 to what? He tilted the screen. Sure enough, a long list: Elias Solon, my father Marina Solon, my mother Zane Solon, my brother. Even aunts and uncles I hadn't spoken to since 2012. And at the bottom in gray italic text, +1 guest of Solon family block. I smiled the way you do when you're pretending not to bleed. Guess that makes me the mystery date. He looked flustered. Do you want me to adjust your badge? No need, I said, pinning the guest tag to my chest, right over my heart, where it tugged just a little too hard. Inside, the smell of rosemary and sea salt curled through the air. The house had been remodeled again, floor-to-ceiling windows, marble everything. No trace of our old lives, no childhood art, no family photos, just minimalist luxury, cold and calculated. I wandered through the hall, ignored just enough to feel invisible. Familiar faces glanced over me, then slid their eyes away like I was a server who'd overstayed my welcome. My name wasn't on the seating chart. Eventually, a coordinator directed me to table 16, near the restrooms, behind a floral arrangement large enough to host its own zip code. My place setting looked tired. The silverware was off-center. The napkin, a sad attempt at a swan, drooped like it had been folded by someone halfway through a bad day. I sat and stared, and waited for anyone to acknowledge me. They didn't. Across the room, my brother Zane was being toasted like a national treasure. He had just been named executive director of some environmental tech firm. Marina, our mother, glowed beside him in emerald silk, laughing in that too loud way she used when there were cameras nearby. Dad stood behind her, sipping champagne, eyes scanning the room like he owned it. At one point, he locked eyes with me. No wave, no smile, just a nod. Like I was a distant cousin someone felt obligated to invite. Then the lights dimmed. The stage lit up. A man in a headset stepped forward. Ladies and gentlemen, a few words now from someone very special to the Solon family, Zane's sister Nyla. My stomach twisted. No one had told me I'd be speaking. I stood slowly, trying not to show the panic bubbling behind my calm face. As I walked toward the stage, heels tapping against the floor like a countdown, my mother gave me a smile, tight, perfect fake. The screen behind me flickered to life. A video began to play. Childhood clips. Zane at age 4 holding a toy stethoscope. Zane winning the spelling bee. Zane in his graduation cap shaking hands with the dean. Voices narrated over the footage, my mother's and father's pre-recorded. Zane has always been our guiding light, Mom said. Smart, dedicated. The kind of brilliance you only see once in a lifetime, Dad added. My throat burned. Slide after slide. Story after story. A curated legacy. He was the golden boy, the miracle son, the future of the family. There was no mention of the years I spent tutoring him through calculus. No hint of the 5-figure loan I gave him when his first company tanked. No trace of me. When the video ended, the applause felt like a punch. I stepped forward, heart pounding, unsure what they expected me to say. It's a beautiful night, I began, voice trembling. And Zane, you've always been able to turn the ordinary into something extraordinary. But I didn't get to finish. Marina stepped forward and interrupted me, her voice gleaming with pretend charm. Wouldn't it be the perfect gift, she said, turning to the crowd, if Nyla gave him the condo tonight? Silence. I froze. The one in South Lamar, she continued, smiling wider. She's never even there. And Zane and Kira could really use the space for starting their family. The spotlight burned hotter. I looked at her, then at Dad. He was nodding casually, like this had been decided without me. I didn't agree to that, I said softly into the mic. The crowd shifted. She waved a hand like I was being silly. It's just property, sweetheart. What's more important than family? I stared at her, and something inside me cracked, but not loud, not violent, just enough to feel it. I smiled faintly. Family shouldn't have terms and conditions. Then I stepped away from the mic. The room went quiet. Zane wouldn't meet my eyes. And that's when the real betrayal came. I turned and Dad was there, holding a bottle of champagne. He didn't speak, he just swung it. The glass connected with the side of my head. White. That flash of pain, that absence of everything. Then cold marble under my knees, blood in my vision. Gasps, phones raised, voices blurred. She's bleeding. Did he really just— oh my God. I tried to stand, pressing one hand to my temple. And through all of it, I heard Marina hiss, "You just had to make it about you." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I walked out. And that was just the beginning. The ER nurse didn't flinch when she saw my head. She didn't gasp, didn't ask what happened, just offered a clipboard and a quiet, "Fill this out when you can." That alone told me I wasn't the first person to walk in bleeding from a family misunderstanding. I gave her my ID insurance card and a smile that barely held. She gave me gauze and silence. It was an even trade. The doctor was brisk and kind. 7 stitches. No concussion. "You're lucky," he said, taping the side of my head. I didn't feel lucky. I felt erased. I left the hospital around midnight with a discharge paper in one hand and a smear of dried blood still crusted behind my ear. My phone buzzed in the back pocket of my jeans. 2 missed calls from Zane. 1 voicemail from my mom. The preview line read, "We need to talk about what you—" I didn't listen, I just turned the phone off. By the time I got home, I was too tired to cry. So I showered in silence, let the water sting, and crawled into bed fully dressed. I woke late the next morning, head throbbing with each heartbeat. The condo was still. Too still. It always was after I'd visited them. Their noise had a way of lingering even after they were gone. I brewed coffee, ignoring the ache in my temple. As I reached into my bag for my keys, just habit, I noticed something. The side pocket was unzipped. The spare key I kept clipped there? Gone. I froze. I remembered it clearly now. A week ago, my father had accidentally taken my bag home after brunch, claimed it looked just like Mom's, laughed it off when I pointed it out. I had brushed it off too. Until now. Until the call came. "Hi, is this Ms. Solon?" A woman's voice chirped from the other end. "This is Gemma from Bridgepoint Realty. Just confirming our appointment for 1 p.m. today at your South Lamar unit." My stomach dropped. "I didn't schedule anything," I said. "Oh well, you're listed as the owner, but it was co-signed by a Mr. Elias Solon. He said you'd meet us there." "No," I said, sharper now. "Cancel that appointment." "Of course, I'm so sorry for the confusion." But I wasn't confused. I was done. I drove straight to the condo, the Texas heat pressing against the windows like a second skin. I called a locksmith on the way. The man showed up in under 30 minutes, tool belt clinking, eyes squinting at the lock. "Someone's been using this recently," he said, pointing to the scratched cylinder. "Key fits but not smoothly, like they didn't know which way to turn it at first." "Change everything," I said. "Top lock, bottom lock, deadbolt, all of it." He nodded. "Want a keypad too?" "Yes, with a new code, one no one else knows." He got to work. I leaned against the hallway wall, arms crossed, mind racing. They hadn't just tried to manipulate me in public. They were trying to sell my life quietly, secretly, piece by piece. And I was supposed to be too ashamed to stop them. Not anymore. When the locksmith left, I called Marin. She was a contract lawyer I met at a brunch last fall. We'd only talked twice since, but she once told me, "If you ever need a boundary enforced with ink instead of emotion, I'm your girl." This felt like the moment. "Marin," I said when she picked up. "Hey Nyla, everything okay?" "No," I said, "but I know exactly what I need to do." We met the next morning in her high-rise office overlooking the river. She wore a navy suit and a look that said, "Try me." I handed her my documents, deed copies, loan transfer receipts, texts, screenshots. She flipped through them like a surgeon reviewing a case file. "You still legally own this place?" she said, tapping a page. "And hold on, you're also still the deed holder of your parents' home. Did you know that?" My breath caught. "No," I whispered. "That was supposed to be temporary. I bought it for them during the recession. They said they'd pay me back." "They didn't," she said, deadpan. She flipped another page. "They've been living there rent-free for almost a decade." I blinked. "You're serious?" I'm rarely not, she said. I sat back staring at the glossy skyline out the window. They were trying to steal from me while living in the house I technically owned. That wasn't irony. That was war. Let's file, I said, quietly. Marin smiled. Now you're speaking my language. I walked out of her office lighter, clearer. For once I had leverage. They wanted silence, I'd give them silence. But it wouldn't be surrender. It would be strategy. That night I didn't cry. I cleaned. I reorganized my closet, wiped down every counter, lit a lavender candle I'd been saving. My condo, my real untouched space, smelled like home again. And when my phone lit up around midnight, I didn't flinch. A new message from Mom. Subject: Let's fix this. Body Nyla. Please come by the house tomorrow. Just us. We don't want any more drama. Let's talk like a family should. Love, Mom. I stared at it longer than I should have, because part of me still wanted it to mean something. But another part, the part that had been standing on shaky legs with blood on her blouse, knew better. Still I went. Because closure isn't always for them. Sometimes it's for you. I pulled into their driveway at 2:12 p.m. sharp. It looked exactly as I remembered, manicured lawn ceramic frogs still perched by the fountain wind chimes making music no one listened to. Everything staged. Everything still. The porch swing didn't creak. It never had. Dad had oiled it religiously like silence made things better. Mom opened the door before I knocked. Nyla, she breathed like she'd just spotted a ghost she wasn't ready for. Her arms wrapped around me before I could decide if I wanted that. The hug was tight. Too tight. Like she thought she could crush the memory of the champagne bottle out of my body. She stepped back. You look good. I nodded. Thanks. Inside the house had changed, but only on the surface. There were fresh white lilies in the entryway, a lemon tart rested on the table next to 2 china teacups, my favorite pattern, and a framed photo of me and Zane sat on the mantel, one I hadn't seen in years. The sudden reappearance of my face felt too curated, too desperate. Where's Zane? I asked. Out, she replied, waving it off. This is just between us. Dad appeared a second later holding a manila envelope. Nyla, he said, like my name left a bad taste. Glad you came. I crossed my arms. Why am I here? He didn't answer, just offered the envelope like it was a peace treaty. We've been thinking, he said. It's time we set clear expectations. No more miscommunication, no more hurt. I took the envelope and opened it. Inside was a 3-page legal document. I didn't even need to read past the heading Mutual Property Transfer Agreement. I skimmed the bolded terms. It was dressed up in legal fluff, but the point was plain. They wanted me to sign over the condo. Now, quietly, permanently. You're serious, I said, eyes locked on Mom. She gave a soft, practiced smile. It's just formality, sweetheart. Zane and Kira are starting a family. You travel for work. That place is just sitting there. My chest felt tight. My throat dry. I placed the folder on the coffee table beside the untouched lemon tart. This was never about peace, I said slowly. You called me here for paperwork. You just didn't want to mail it. Nyla, Dad began, but I held up a hand. You want to talk family, I said. Let's. Because a real family doesn't ask for a house as a birthday gift. A real family doesn't sell their daughter's property behind her back. Mom's smile dropped. Her voice turned cold. This is why it's hard to include you. You always make things difficult. I make things difficult. I laughed. It was dry, hollow. You hit me with a bottle in front of 100 people. Dad's jaw tightened. Don't be dramatic, it didn't even break skin. 7 stitches, I said. ER report. You want to see it? Silence. Then Mom leaned forward, clasping her hands. We just want what's best for everyone. Zane's worked so hard. So have I snapped. You just never noticed. No one moved. So I did. I stood up slow and deliberate and picked up the contract again. I folded it twice clean and precise, then dropped it gently into the trash can by the piano. Neither of them said a word, and I didn't offer an explanation. I turned to leave. You're not walking out again, Mom said, voice sharp. I am, I replied, opening the door. And this time I'm not looking back. That night I couldn't sleep, so I made a folder. Not a dramatic one, just facts. Wire transfers, tax filings, property purchase dates, mortgage payments, all signed by me, screenshots of messages from Dad asking for help during the housing crash, audio snippets from voicemails Mom left when Zane's company almost went under. I titled it Just So We're Clear. No hashtags, no flair. I didn't post it, not yet, but it was there, ready. The next day, the knock on my door came at 10:41 a.m. It wasn't a courier, it was a sheriff's deputy. Ms. Solon, he asked. I nodded, heart pounding. He handed me a sealed envelope. You've been named in a preemptive injunction regarding property interference. From your family. I stared at the paper. They're trying to block me from reclaiming the deed. Looks that way, he said, grimacing. Happens more than you'd think. I signed, he left. I didn't cry. I brewed coffee instead. And then I called Marin. They filed against me, I said. There was silence on the line. Then good, she replied. That means they're scared. 2 days later, Marin filed a formal motion. Not just to refute the injunction, but to start the eviction process for their house. The one I still owned. It felt cold. It also felt like breathing for the first time. I wasn't angry. I was aligned. The news hit them fast. The same day the notice arrived, my mother posted a cryptic photo on her Instagram story, white tulips wilting in a vase with the caption, "When daughters forget who raised them." Zane reposted it with a single emoji. I rolled my eyes. Then I shared my folder. Quietly. An unlisted Dropbox link. Sent to 3 people, my uncle Milo, my former boss who'd seen the bruise on my temple, and my college roommate who had once been mistaken for my real sister because she treated me like one. I didn't blast it online. I seeded it. I didn't want a war. I wanted a record. The next message came from Zane. You're overreacting. We can fix this. You're not being rational. I stared at the screen, then typed, You swung first. I just didn't duck. He didn't reply, but someone else did. My cousin Sari, quiet always on the sidelines, sent me a message that just said, They erased you from our albums, but I never forgot you were there. Attached was a photo from her scrapbook. Me, age 14, standing beside Zane at his piano recital. I was holding his sheet music, smiling too big. Mom had cut that photo out of our family's printed albums years ago. But Sari still had the original. Sometimes proof lives where you least expect it. Sometimes revenge isn't rage, it's receipts. 3 weeks after the court filing, a plain white envelope arrived at their door. Inside it, a legal notice to vacate. 30 days, no extensions. I didn't deliver it personally. I didn't need to. The deputy's knock was loud enough. I didn't see it happen, but someone made sure I did. Zane, ever the dramatist, posted footage from their Ring camera. My father answered the door in a robe and socks holding a half-buttered toast. Behind him, Mom froze mid-sip coffee cup inches from her lips. The deputy handed over the envelope, said a few words the mic didn't catch. Then Dad glanced at the papers and his face hardened. He crumpled the first page like it might change the outcome. Mom's mouth moved, but the clip cut off before I could read it. No apology. No plea. Just panic. I watched it twice. Once to feel it, again to believe it. Then I closed the app and let it be. That night I didn't celebrate. I lit a candle. I watered my one surviving plant. I made tea, cinnamon, and chamomile. My condo was quiet, still, honest. No photos were missing from my shelves. No framed memories edited for ego. No names scratched out. No rooms filled with ghosts pretending to love you. It smelled like polish and peace. And for once I didn't feel like a trespasser in my own space. A week later, the second message arrived. From Mom. This time handwritten. Cream stationery, blue ink. Her cursive still perfect like always. Nyla, we don't understand why you're doing this. We were only trying to take care of the family. You've always been emotional, but we still love you. Even now. Please come back to talk, no lawyers, just us. Mom. P.S. I found your 4th grade science trophy, thought you might want it. No mention of the hit, the stitches, the key they stole, the lies. Just the trophy, like a memory could buy back trust. I folded the letter once and slid it into a drawer. Not out of anger, out of clarity. I wasn't hers to guilt anymore. The eviction moved quickly. They tried to stall, of course, claimed they were unaware, argued hardship, even said the paperwork was a misunderstanding. But it wasn't. Their names weren't on the deed. Mine was. They had 30 days. And by day 28, the moving truck was parked crooked in the driveway, engine running back, flap open, waiting. I arrived late. Not to gloat, just to be sure. The front yard looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I just felt taller now. I didn't knock, I didn't need to. I stepped through the front door, the same one I used to color welcome signs on with chalk, and walked into a house that once pretended I didn't exist. It was empty now. No couches, no laughter, no manufactured warmth, just walls. And on the kitchen counter, a single envelope. No name, no signature, just one typed sentence. This was never your home anyway. I didn't flinch. I folded the note, slid it into my purse, then paused. Under the kitchen sink where we used to hide snacks and spare batteries, I noticed a small box. Dust-covered, untouched. I opened it. Inside was a napkin. Not just any napkin. The napkin. The one I'd straightened that night at the party folded like a limp swan near the kitchen doors. It wasn't a copy, it was the original. Creased, slightly wine-stained, still folded. They'd kept it. I didn't know what that meant. Maybe guilt, maybe nothing. But I took it with me. Because even forgotten things deserve to be reclaimed. Back in my condo, I set the napkin on the table. Centered it. No frame, no spotlight, just acknowledgement. Then I sat down and opened a blank document. At the top I wrote, "Truth when chosen is louder than inheritance." And below that, I started drafting an article. Not for revenge, for record. It was time people knew what quiet betrayal looked like. Not screaming matches, not broken windows, just names missing from documents, keys taken, rooms filled with silence where love should have been. That night, AmITheA came over. She brought Thai food and an orchid in a tiny pot. "You need more color in here," she said, placing it by the window without asking. We sat on the floor eating pad ki mao with plastic forks. She asked about the court filing. I asked about her new job. We didn't mention my parents. We didn't have to. Chosen family never needs permission to stay. Before she left, she looked at the napkin on the table. "That from the party?" she asked. "Yeah. You keeping it?" I nodded. "It's mine, even if they didn't want me to have it." She smiled soft and wide. "Then let it remind you what you survived." 2 days later, the house officially changed ownership. I signed the final papers from Marin's office and wired it to a trust. Not for profit, for protection. That house where I grew up, got ignored, gave away too many pieces of myself, was never going to hurt me again. And it wasn't going to be theirs either. Not without consequence. Not without acknowledgement. The funds hit the account. The title was transferred. The locks were changed. It was done. Not vengeance. Closure. That evening I lit a single candle. Not for them. For me. Because I didn't win anything. I just stopped losing. And for the first time that felt like enough. The silence after legal closure was the strangest kind. Not relief, not peace, just quiet. Like walking through a room that used to echo with arguments, but now only hums with air conditioning. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was hollow in a way that felt like healing. Not because there was nothing left, but because I had finally stopped bleeding energy into people who never intended to give any back. And then the message came. From Kira, Zane's wife. Or fiancé. I wasn't sure if the wedding had happened. No one invited me. Again. Her name blinked across my screen around 10:17 p.m. on a Wednesday. "Hey, you don't know me well, but I found something. Thought you should see it. I'm sorry." Attached was a photo. An old leather-bound album. Gold-etched edges. The one Mom kept locked in the cabinet in her room, the one she called the Core Collection. In the picture, Kira had laid it open across her lap. Page after page of memories. Zane in his baseball uniform, Zane on stage with his scholarship certificate, Dad and Mom smiling arm in arm, cousins, neighbors, graduations, cookouts, but not one picture of me, not a single one. No baby photos, no piano recitals, no debate trophies, not even those terrible middle school Christmas cards where I always wore the reindeer sweater and held the family dog. I wasn't edited out. I was erased. Like I never existed. Another message followed. They told me you moved out early, that you didn't come to events. But this is wrong. I just wanted you to know someone sees it. I stared at that photo for a long time, not out of disbelief, out of recognition. Because I had felt it for years, this strange emptiness at every gathering, every milestone, like I was a guest at my own life. But seeing it confirmed, documented, physical was different. It wasn't paranoia. It was proof. The next day, I pulled out my own album, the one I made in high school. Stickers on the corners, a cracked spine. It had sat in a plastic bin under my bed for years untouched. Inside there I was. Braces and glitter eyeshadow. Solo trip to Seattle. The day I got my college acceptance. Me in my first car, a rusted Corolla with no AC. Even a few blurry shots of Zane and me, back when he still smiled like I was someone worth standing beside. And tucked between 2 pages, I found something I didn't remember saving. A sticky note. Dad's handwriting. "Nyla, proud of you for acing that stats final. I always knew you'd go far." I held the note between my fingers like it was a leaf pressed in a book I'd forgotten how to read. Because he had loved me. Once. But love that has to be proved again and again becomes something else. Love that gets replaced with manipulation. That's not love anymore. That's possession. That weekend I went to the shelter. Not for me. For them. I donated 2 boxes of furniture pieces I'd inherited from the house. The mirror from the guest room, the end table from the den, a rug that once lived under their dining table. Things that had been mine by default. things that didn't deserve to carry the weight of memory. On the memo line of the donation form I wrote, "In honor of starting over." The woman behind the counter smiled. "That's a good reason." A few days later, another letter arrived. From Uncle Nate, Dad's older brother, the only one who ever sent birthday cards without being reminded. It was simple. A folded piece of paper inside a plain white envelope. "Nyla, I saw the link. I read everything. And I want you to know I believe you. I always did. They can rewrite the albums, they can delete the photos, but they can't delete what we remember. You're still family. The kind that matters. If you need a witness for anything, I'm here." That was the first time in months I cried. Not because it fixed anything, but because someone else remembered me too. They tried to spin their version, of course. A week after the eviction, Mom posted a soft-lit video of herself baking shortbread captioned, "Some people walk away from their families. Others bake through the heartbreak." Zane added a quote to his story. "When loyalty is questioned, stay silent. The truth always surfaces." The comments rolled in. "Praying for your family. Hope your daughter sees the light. Some kids just don't appreciate sacrifice." I didn't respond. I didn't even watch the full video. I just opened Dropbox and made the folder public. Truth if you care to see it. It wasn't petty. It was precise. No hashtags, no commentary. Just wire transfers, legal documents, screenshots, audio files, the ER report. The truth didn't need embellishment. It just needed sunlight. That night I lit a candle again. It's strange how healing rituals become part of routine. Like a signal to yourself, you survived. You still are. And then the knock came. Not on the door. On the inbox. An email from a former professor. She'd read my post. She remembered me from senior year, quiet, focused, the one who always sat in the second row. Her subject line: "You should tell this story wider." I wasn't sure. Not yet. But I replied anyway. "Thank you, I think I just might." The day I finalized the house sale, I didn't feel powerful. I felt clean. Like I'd finally walked out of a room that had been smoky for years and took my first real breath. The realtor sent me a short email, "Funds wired. Title closed. The house is no longer associated with you." And just like that, the last anchor tied to them was cut. I didn't frame the email. I didn't post it. I just read it once, whispered "okay," and made myself a cup of tea. Cinnamon again. Some rituals stay. A week later, the baby shower invite arrived. Cream envelope. Thick cardstock. My name handwritten in cursive, familiar and careful. Thessaly's handwriting. Zane's wife. Inside, everything was tastefully designed. Soft gold script, white roses in the corners. "Join us in celebrating new life," it read. At the bottom in smaller print, "Nyla, I'm sorry. I didn't know how far they went. You deserved better." These. No flourish, no over-explaining, just acknowledgement. That mattered more than I expected. I didn't RSVP. But I didn't tear it up either. I placed it in the same drawer as Dad's old sticky note beside the folded swan napkin. Some things don't need to be forgotten. They just don't get to follow you. That night I made a donation, $5,000, to a women's housing nonprofit that helps survivors rebuild. I added a note on the form in honor of walking away before it broke me. And then I went through my contact list, cleared out the ghosts. No big ceremony, no rage unfollowing. Just a quiet delete, one by one. People who only called when they wanted to know what happened. People who only checked in after the damage was done. People who thought family was a shield they could hide behind while they stabbed. Gone. Then I made dinner. A real one. Not toast over the sink or soup reheated 3 times. I made pasta with garlic and thyme, poured wine into a glass I hadn't used in months, and set 2 plates, not from habit, from intention. At 7:10, Amina walked in carrying a bottle of red and a tiny succulent in a pink ceramic pot. "Something green for your window," she said, "and something dry for your soul." She always knew the exact energy I needed. We ate at the table, the swan napkin still sitting quietly between us. "I saw the post," she said, finally twirling spaghetti with her fork. "You went public." I nodded. I didn't name names, just showed the receipts. "And how do you feel?" I thought about it. "Clear," I said. "Not healed, not bitter, just clear." She smiled. "That's how you know you're done." After she left, I sat in the kitchen a little longer. The orchid she brought weeks ago had bloomed. The air smelled like fresh polish and lemon balm. Outside, the city buzzed on cars moving, sirens far off, someone playing jazz on a nearby balcony. But inside it was still. Safe. And for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to check my phone. There was nothing left to brace for. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. Sunlight bled through the blinds in soft stripes, landing right on the napkin I'd left on the kitchen table. It had dulled over time, creases softened, fabric worn, but it was still standing, still whole. Just like me, I logged into my laptop and opened a blank page. I wrote the first line with no hesitation. They tried to erase me, so I wrote myself back in. I didn't know if I'd publish it, but I knew it needed to exist. Not for revenge, for memory. For girls like me who grew up being told they were too much, too emotional, too sensitive, but never quite enough. A week later, the story went live. Not viral, not explosive, just quiet traction. DMs trickled in. Women I didn't know thanking me for putting their invisible into words. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years saying I didn't know. I'm sorry. Even my old teacher, Mrs. Laney, commented, I always knew you'd be the one to tell the truth without screaming. And then came the final letter. From my mother. Typed, no handwriting this time. Nyla, you've made your point. I don't agree with how you did it, but I suppose I can't stop you. We are not perfect parents, but you are not a perfect daughter either. That said, I hope you find peace in whatever version of the story you've created. It didn't hurt. It didn't even sting, because I no longer needed her to see the full picture. I did, and that was enough. 1 month later, I hosted my own dinner. Nothing fancy. Just me, Amina, sorry, Uncle Nate, and a few friends who'd stood with me when things cracked. We sat under string lights on my balcony, passing dishes around like communion. No performance, no manipulation, just joy. I toasted quietly. To those who stayed. Amina raised her glass. To those who saw. Sorry added. To those who were never meant to disappear. We clinked. Not for a chapter ending. For a story reclaimed. Later that night, I folded a napkin. Not perfectly, not with precision, just enough to give it shape. I set it in the center of the table and whispered to myself, never again will I beg for a seat at a table where my name is missing from the place cards, because from now on I was building my own table. And this time, everyone seated there would know, I wasn't just a +1. I was the reason the story was told at all. Story 2. I should have known something was off the second I walked into the house and saw the suitcases lined up by the door. But it wasn't until I asked, so the trip's off right, and my sister smiled that smile she only used when she was about to say something cruel, that I realized I'd been set up. It was postponed, she said sweetly. For you. My name's Ethan. I'm 34, live alone, work in systems design, and up until 2 weeks ago was my family's unpaid travel agent, financial backer, and emotional punching bag. They lied to me. All of them. Just 2 weeks before Nora, my older sister, told me the family vacation was off. Too expensive, she claimed. Dad's not feeling great, she added. We'll reschedule for late summer. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I was the one who found the villa, sent Nora the deposit when she said her credit card was being weird. I paid for the travel insurance. I reminded our parents to renew their passports. I helped book flights. And now they were packed, dressed in linen, and smiles, laughing in the kitchen like I didn't exist. Like I hadn't just spent $2,000 making sure this trip could even happen. I set down the bag of groceries I'd brought for our parents. No one offered to help. No one looked guilty. My mom sipped tea. Dad tapped away at his phone. Nora barked an order to my younger brother about swim trunks. They were leaving. Today. Without me. You've been so busy lately, Nora said, pretending to sound sympathetic. We thought you'd appreciate the break. Busy. I nearly choked. I've been busy paying for your flights, your upgrades, your precious villa with the infinity pool. I stared at her, then smiled, and that seemed to shake her more than if I'd flipped the table. Got it, I said calmly. Enjoy your trip. She blinked. Wait, you're not mad? I smiled again. Not at all. I'm done. She tried to play it off, but I saw her expression shift. A flicker of confusion. Maybe fear. She had no idea what was coming. Because if they thought I'd just sit at home while they sipped cocktails on a beach I paid for, they forgot who handled all the reservations. It started 6 months ago. Nora had called me under the guise of family bonding. That should have been the first red flag. Found a place in Portugal, she said. Insane ocean view, private chef. I think it would be great for all of us to reconnect. Reconnecting was code for you pay we tan. I wired the deposit, $1 and $200, after a week of her guilt-tripping me about how stressed mom and dad were. Then came the oh no, flight prices jumped, followed by we'll need travel insurance in case of emergencies, and finally, can you just handle it? You're better with details. I was up to $3,000 before anyone even said thank you. Still, I told myself it was fine. Maybe we'd all relax. Maybe this trip would be different. Spoiler, it wasn't. They planned to cut me out the whole time. The week before the trip, I texted my mom, still on for the 14th. Actually, she replied, Nora said we're postponing. Cheaper deals in August. I believed her because I wanted to. But then came that visit, just a quick stop at the house to drop off mail. And there they were, laughing, packing, joking about tanning oil and airport snacks. Didn't think you'd be here, Nora said. You said it was postponed. She smirked, sliding bikinis into a suitcase. It was, for you. I stared at her like I didn't recognize her face. Because in that moment I didn't. Why, I asked, voice low. You always ruin the vibe, she said with a shrug. Let's be real, Ethan, you don't exactly scream fun. I didn't scream at all. Not then. I just walked out. But that night I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I planned. Every booking was in my name. Every flight confirmation, rental contract, villa key code, all of it. So I took back control. I logged into the villa portal, changed the locks, canceled the grocery delivery, contacted the concierge with a polite update. Guests have changed. Blocked Nora's number. No services provided to anyone not listed under Ethan Cross. Then came the airport pickup. I messaged the driver, change of plans. Guests will not be arriving. No pickup required. And the cherry on top, their luggage. Nora had insisted I book a luxury luggage service that sends the bag straight from customs to the villa. Like celebrities do, she'd said. So I logged in, found the delivery location, and changed it. Destination: a dairy farm 4 hours inland. Special instructions: leave bags by the gate. Please don't disturb the goats. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my laptop. The next morning they boarded the plane thinking they'd walk into luxury. They were wrong. First call came at 6:10 a.m. Ignored. Then another. Then another. By noon I had 12 missed calls and 4 voicemails, most of them just breathless yelling. I finally answered the 5th from a blocked number. Where are our bags? Nora was practically shrieking. I sipped my coffee. Somewhere peaceful, rustic, full of fresh air. You sent our luggage to a goat farm. Technically, yes. You're insane. No, I said, I'm done. Fix this. Like you fixed the invite list. Click. I blocked her, then turned off my phone and went back to watching my plants grow on the balcony. Because sometimes peace doesn't come from forgiveness. Sometimes it comes from watching Karma unpack her suitcase. Without Wi-Fi, they say silence is golden. They're wrong. Silence is power. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't demand, doesn't need permission. It just is. And that's what I gave them: silence. After I redirected their luggage to a goat farm in the Portuguese countryside, turned off villa access, and canceled every extra they'd begged for, I went quiet. For 3 whole days, I didn't take a single call. I didn't read a single text. I let them flail. And oh, did they flail. At first it was fury. You humiliated us. We have nothing but carry-ons. This is family abuse. Then came the bargaining. We'll pay you back. Just get the bags back. We'll talk when we return like adults. And finally, desperation. Please, Mom's crying, Dad's furious, you've made your point. I hadn't even begun. They came back early, 3 days into their luxury trip, and they landed back on home soil looking like survivors of a natural disaster. Sunburned, exhausted, emotionally hungover. I was sitting on the porch when their Uber pulled up. Nora was the first out, wearing travel sweats and fury. Her hair was up in a frazzled bun, and the tan lines on her face clashed with her rage. You, she said, stomping toward me. You ruined everything. I sipped my iced tea. Welcome home. This isn't funny, Ethan. Behind her, Mom emerged dragging a dented carry-on and looking like she hadn't slept in 48 hours. Dad stayed near the trunk, fiddling with straps he didn't need to touch. You embarrassed us, Mom snapped. No, I said calmly. You embarrassed yourselves. I just gave you a mirror. Nora let out a dramatic huff. You're bitter because you were left out. That's what this is about. I stood up, setting my drink down. What this is about, Nora, is the fact that I paid for a vacation I wasn't invited to. You lied. You used me. Then you laughed about it. Oh, come on, it wasn't personal. It was targeted, I cut in. You said I ruined the vibe, that I'm too intense, that I suck the fun out of things. You used my money, then erased me. She crossed her arms. You act like we're villains. If the shoe fits. My mom stepped forward, her voice lower. Sweetheart, we just thought, don't sweetheart me. You're still part of this family. No. I was the sponsor, the invisible one, the one you all kept around for convenience. And now I'm not. Dad finally spoke, his voice sharp and cold. This was childish. No, I said, this was overdue. We were stranded. In a beachfront villa with heated floors and an outdoor grill, I scoffed. Oh, the horror. Nora's face turned red. You don't get to act like some hero. You enjoyed this. You wanted us to suffer. I tilted my head. I wanted you to see what it felt like to be excluded, not just left out, cut out. And I wanted you to feel it in real time without me there to clean up the mess. You're cruel, and you're entitled. For the first time in years, I saw her falter. She wasn't used to me standing my ground, to speaking without apologizing. Mom grabbed my arm. We can fix this. I pulled away gently. No, you can't. You chose this. You made a plan that excluded me. All I did was follow your lead. They stood there speechless, until someone new stepped out from the car. Alex, Nora's husband. Quiet, observant, always on the sidelines. He walked slowly up the driveway, looked at his wife, then at me, and said something that changed everything. He's right. We all turned to him. Nora blinked. Excuse me. He's right, Alex repeated. I saw the messages. You planned the whole thing. You said he'd kill the mood and that it would be better without him. She stared at him like he'd betrayed her. You knew, she whispered. I didn't agree, he said. But I didn't stop it either. And that's on me. He turned to me. I'm sorry, Ethan. I should have said something. I nodded. Thanks. That was the first apology I'd heard in months. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Nora stormed past us, muttering something about how we'd all turned on her. Dad followed, grumbling under his breath. Mom lingered, eyes glassy. We never meant for it to go this far. You meant enough of it, I replied, and that's the part that matters. Then I turned and walked back inside. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. Because this time I didn't feel like the villain. I felt free. That night my phone stayed silent. No begging, no tantrums, just silence. And that was the loudest apology I could have asked for. For the first time in years, I slept through the night. No anxiety, no guilt, no one else's emergency buzzing on my phone. The next few weeks were quiet. I cleaned my apartment, deleted shared calendars, canceled joint accounts. I bought new sheets, rearranged my furniture, started a list of places I wanted to visit alone, places I wouldn't invite anyone to. No group planning, no Nora. No family contributions that always meant Ethan pays. Just me. Then 3 weeks after the trip I got an email. Subject line, let's talk. From Mom. You've made your point, but this is still your family. Clara is devastated. We hope you'll come around before things get worse. Sunday dinner next week. No, I'm sorry, no ownership, just another emotional boomerang. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. I archived it like a relic from a story I was no longer part of. Later that week, I ran into someone at the local bookstore. Jenna, one of Nora's old friends from college. She recognized me immediately. Ethan. Hey, I heard what happened. I just want to say, good for you. Excuse me. You finally stood up for yourself, she said. It was long overdue. I didn't know how to respond. Nora always acted like you were her little assistant, she added. But you were the one holding everything together. She squeezed my shoulder before leaving. And just like that, someone saw it. Saw me. For who I was. That night, I lit a candle, played some music, and made dinner just for me. No one to impress, no one to save. I poured a glass of wine, sat by the window, and realized something that stopped me cold. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. And being done felt better than winning ever had. 2 months had passed since I'd canceled the vacation, redirected the luggage, and slammed the door metaphorically on my role as the family's unpaid concierge. And you know what? Nothing exploded. The sky didn't fall. The guilt didn't eat me alive like I'd always feared it would. In fact, I'd never felt lighter. I didn't wake up to financial requests. No one asked for just a quick transfer. The group chat went radio silent and stayed that way. My world got quieter and better. For the first time in years, my money was mine. My time was mine. My weekends weren't packed with errands I didn't volunteer for. I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes expecting a meltdown I had to fix. I was just living. And that scared them more than any act of revenge. I started doing things I never had the bandwidth for when I was the family's emotional support system. I joined a weekend hiking group. I repainted my living room in this ridiculous but warm terracotta shade that Nora would have mocked. I even adopted a rescue dog, a lanky mutt named Percy, who loved classical music and hated loud voices. He was perfect, and so was the peace. It didn't take long before that peace began to reflect outward. People noticed. At work, my manager said, "You're different these days. Sharper, like you're finally showing up for yourself." A barista at my local cafe asked if I'd just gotten back from vacation. I hadn't, but apparently peace looks a lot like tan skin and relaxed shoulders. The truth. I'd never felt more like myself or less like their version of me. Then came the backlash. Not directly, of course not. That's not how my family operates. It started with Nora's Instagram post. Black background, white text, generic font. Sometimes the people you'd do anything for are the ones who do nothing for you. The comments were full of sympathy. I didn't respond. Then came a carefully crafted photo dump of the vacation, just the good moments, just the smiles as if they could edit out what happened. It didn't bother me, not really, because I knew the real story, and so did Alex. One evening I got a text from him. "Hey, just checking in. Hope you're still breathing easy." I smiled, lighter than ever. "How's the fallout?" He replied instantly. "Nora's acting like she's in mourning, but honestly, the silence is overdue. Just know you've got someone in your corner." It was strange. We'd never really connected before the meltdown, but now, we got each other. Two people tired of tiptoeing around someone else's ego. A few weeks later, I bumped into Linda, our cousin, at a bookstore downtown. She gave me a tight hug and whispered, "I read what happened. You're brave, you know. Most of us just endure it." I blinked. "You knew?" She laughed bitterly. "Everyone knows, they just never say it out loud. You were the first." It landed like a quiet truth bomb. I wasn't the problem. I was just the first one willing to name it. That realization changed something in me. I started writing. Nothing fancy, just short entries, observations, truths I'd never allowed myself to say aloud. Like, love isn't guilt with a pretty ribbon on it. Helping isn't the same as being used. Silence can be peace, but it can also be someone training you not to speak. I didn't mean to share it with anyone, but I did. One night, I posted a thread on X, formerly Twitter. What happens when you stop being your family's emotional crutch? You heal, slowly, and then loudly. The post went viral. Hundreds of comments, thousands of shares, messages from people around the world telling me the same thing. I thought I was the only one. I wasn't. None of us were. And it hit me. I didn't just break my own cycle. I cracked open a door for others too. That's when I launched something I never thought I'd have the courage to build: a newsletter, The Boundary Line. Weekly essays on setting limits, protecting peace, and healing from families who confuse proximity with love. Within a month, it had 20,000 subscribers. I got invited onto a podcast, then 2, then 5. Suddenly, the guy who used to pay for everyone else's vacation was the one giving strangers permission to stop apologizing for saving themselves. And it wasn't revenge anymore. It was purpose. Of course, none of this stopped my family from trying one last time. It was a Friday morning when I opened my email and saw the subject line, "Come home, let's reset," from Mom. The message was short. "Nora is in therapy now. She's trying. Your father doesn't like the silence. I know things got messy, but we're still family. Dinner Sunday." There it was again. The same script. The bait wrapped in nostalgia. No apology, no accountability. Just a tug on the guilt string. But that string had been cut months ago. I didn't reply. I went on a hike instead. 2 days later, another message came. This time from an unknown number. It was Nora. "I know you hate me, but therapy's helping. I'm trying to change." No sorry. Just a self-pitying attempt at redemption. I deleted it. Not to be cruel, but because I didn't need it. I'd already forgiven her, but I hadn't forgotten. And I wasn't going back. That weekend, I booked a trip. Not for anyone else. Not to reconnect or give family time another chance. Just for me. To Iceland. To see the northern lights, something I'd always wanted but never prioritized. As I stood there under that frozen, swirling sky, bundled up and breathless, I whispered to myself, "This is what peace looks like." And I meant it. A week later, Alex messaged again. "Nora thinks you'll eventually come back around. She still doesn't get it," I replied. "I know. Tell her I didn't leave the table. I built a better one. I don't live in bitterness anymore. That space got cleaned out. Now there's room for morning walks with Percy, for coffee with old friends, for long weekends without guilt. And when people ask what happened, I tell them the truth. I stopped financing my own erasure. And the second I did, they didn't know what to do with me, because I was no longer who they thought I'd always be. I wasn't the wallet or the fixer or the one who never said no. I was the one who got up, walked out, and never looked back. I used to think walking away from my family would feel like a bomb going off, dramatic, final, impossible to come back from. But it wasn't an explosion. It was a door quietly closing behind me, and for once, no one was on the other side yelling for it to stay open. I wasn't angry anymore, not bitter, not waiting for apologies that wouldn't come. I was just done. Not because I hated them, but because I finally loved myself more. And that's the thing no one warns you about when you break away from a toxic family pattern. Peace feels strange at first, like guilt's ghost is still hovering near the light switch. But day by day it fades, and in its place, freedom. I didn't respond to the Sunday dinner invite. I didn't call mom back. I didn't text Nora after her therapy is helping message. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted reset. To put everything back where it was, with me footing the bill, staying quiet, showing up on cue. They missed the version of me who didn't have boundaries. The version who sent Venmo payments instead of saying no. Who'd drop everything to make their chaos more comfortable even if it crushed me. But that version was gone. And I wasn't bringing him back just to make the room less awkward. A month after the Iceland trip, I posted a photo. Just me and Percy standing in front of a waterfall, captioned, "Sometimes you have to lose what you never needed to find who you've always been." The comments flooded in. One stood out. It was from someone named Serena, a stranger. "I finally cut off my parents. I've never breathed this deep in my life. Thank you for helping me feel less alone." That night I cried. Quietly. Not from sadness but from the release. Because I realized this wasn't just about revenge, or payback, or proving a point. This was about legacy. Not the kind written in wills or stitched into family trees, but the kind that breaks cycles. The kind that says, it ends here. And still they didn't stop. One afternoon, I opened my mailbox to find a card. Handwritten. No return address, but I knew the script by heart. It was from Mom. Inside, a $50 gift card to a restaurant she knew I liked. And a short note. "We're still your family. Come home when you're ready. Love, Mom." I stared at the card for a long time, then slid it into a drawer unopened. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even tempted. Because here's the truth. Come home only works when home is safe. And theirs never was. I built a new version of home. One where my opinions mattered. Where silence wasn't punishment and love didn't feel like a receipt I'd eventually be handed. Home became the playlist I made while cooking dinner for no one but myself. The rug Percy liked to nap on. The sun that hit my living room window just right at 4:17 p.m. Home became me. Whole, worthy, free. 6 months after the vacation fiasco, I got a message from Alex. He and Nora had separated. It was coming, he said. The trip just sped it up. I didn't ask for details. I didn't gloat. I just said, "I hope you're doing okay." He replied, "Better than okay, thank you for waking me up." Turns out when you stop pretending dysfunction is normal, other people start questioning it too. Around that time, I ran into Linda again, our cousin. We met for coffee, and halfway through, she said something that hit harder than anything I'd heard in months. "You didn't just change your life, Ethan. You gave the rest of us permission." I blinked. To do what? To say enough. She told me her brother had stopped covering their dad's rent, that their sister had started therapy. It's like your silence echoed. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. Sometimes your healing becomes a blueprint for people you didn't know were watching. And then the final message came. Not an email, not a text. A letter. This time from Dad. It arrived folded in crisp paper, addressed just to me in his unmistakable print. I opened it slowly, cautiously, like it might explode. It didn't. It read, "I didn't realize how much you were holding up until you stopped. I won't ask for anything. Just know, I'm starting to understand. I hope one day you'll feel safe enough to call this family again. Until then, I'm sorry. No excuses. No passive aggression. Just something I'd never gotten from him before, honesty." I folded it up, put it next to the photo of Percy I'd taped to my fridge. Not as an invitation, but as closure. Because he didn't get access back just because he finally saw the wreckage. But he did get acknowledgement, and that was enough. People always ask me now, "Do you ever miss them?" And I say this, I miss the version of them I thought they could be, but I don't miss how they made me feel. And that difference, that's what healed me. A year after the villa disaster, I went back to Portugal. Not to the same villa, a different one. Smaller, simpler, mine. No siblings, no guilt, no group text updates. Just me, Percy, and the ocean. I sat on the balcony sipping espresso and watching the sun melt into the sea. And I whispered, "You're allowed. Allowed to leave, to heal, to rest, to never return. To be whole without the people who once taught you that love had strings. To be happy loudly in the absence of guilt." I didn't lose a family. I lost a cage, and in its place, I found a door. It led back to me, and I've been walking through it ever since. Story 3. I've cleaned up after people my entire life. At home, at work, at every family event where someone forgot to show up, forgot to help, or forgot to say thank you. But nothing prepared me for the moment my younger brother stood in front of 200 wedding guests, raised his champagne glass, and turned me into a joke. "Big shout out to my brother Lucas for paying for the food," he said, smirking. "Seriously, couldn't have pulled this off without your help." But let's be real, nobody wants the janitor in the wedding photos. He grinned like it was the cleverest thing he'd ever said. And everyone else, they laughed, not loud, not joyful, but that strange awkward chuckle people give when they know a line's been crossed but don't want to be the one to call it out. His bride covered her mouth. My parents looked down at their drinks. A few cousins tried to change the subject. And me? I just stood there in my work boots and uniform shirt, the smell of bleach still faint on my sleeves. I didn't flinch, didn't clap back, didn't storm out. I just smiled and said, "You're right." Then I turned around, walked out of the reception tent, and never looked back. Let me rewind. My name's Lucas. I'm 36. I've worked as a school custodian for the last 11 years. It's not glamorous, but it's honest and I'm good at it. My brother Drew is 5 years younger. He's all charm and excuses. Bounced between careers like it was a sport. Failed 2 startups, never finished college. But he always had that thing that made people forgive him anyway. And me, I was the guy who paid for the damage he left behind. When Drew got engaged to his longtime girlfriend Haley, he called me with a voice full of excitement and zero cash. "I want it to be special, man," he said. "You know how much this means to the family. You're the only one I trust to help me get it off the ground." Translation: you're the only one with savings and guilt. I picked up extra shifts. I skipped my first vacation in 6 years. I paid for the catering in full, nearly $8,000. When Haley's florist flaked, I covered the replacements. When her dress alterations went over budget, I handled it. No one forced me. That's the part that burns the most. I did it willingly, because I thought that's what love looked like. Quiet sacrifice. No spotlight, no expectations. But I was wrong. The night of the wedding, I wore my work uniform. Not out of spite. It was clean, pressed, familiar. I didn't have the cash left for a new suit, and honestly, I didn't think it mattered. Until Drew turned it into a punchline. The janitor. Like the job that kept our lights on growing up was something he needed to distance himself from. I left the tent, quietly drove back to my motel, and sat on the bed in silence. I pulled up the email from the catering company. The charge hadn't gone through yet. I clicked cancel. Then I booked a one-way flight to Portugal. I'd never been, but I figured if I was going to be erased from the wedding, I might as well erase myself from the cleanup. By morning, my phone had gone nuclear. Dozens of missed calls. Haley, my parents, even her dad. Drew's texts came in waves. "Bro, did you cancel the catering? WTH, man, people left. Over a joke, really grow up. This is pathetic." No apology. Just the same tone he'd used our whole lives. Confused when I didn't swallow my pride. Angry when I finally stood still. Then came my mom's call. "Lucas, what were you thinking?" Everyone went home hungry. Haley's family was embarrassed. Embarrassed. "You mean the family that hasn't paid a dime?" I said. "The one who asked me for another $600 the week before for chairs and then never mentioned it again?" "That's not the point," she replied. "No. The point is your younger son humiliated me in front of a room full of people and not a single one of you told him to stop." She paused, then added, "Well, you were in your uniform." That's when it clicked. They never saw me as someone worth defending. They just saw someone useful. Dad called later that afternoon. "You've made your point, but you didn't have to embarrass the whole family." I was silent for a moment. Then I asked, "When Drew dropped out of college, who covered the loans so mom and dad wouldn't lose the house?" "You did," he admitted. "When his last car broke down." "You did. When Haley called crying because the DJ canceled last minute." "You paid." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "And what did I get?" He didn't respond. Not even a seat at the table, just a joke and a bill. He tried again. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "No," I said. "I'm finally putting it in proportion." I haven't heard from Drew since. No apology, no explanation, just silence. Which is fine. I'm done cleaning up messes I didn't make. Let them serve pizza and excuses. Let them wonder why the golden goose finally flew away. I'll be somewhere else. Not angry, just free. 3 days after I canceled the catering and flew out, I got an envelope in my email. Not from Drew, from Haley. It was a scanned PDF titled, "Request for Compensation." Inside was a typed letter. No greeting, no warmth, just straight to the point. "Due to your last-minute cancellation, our wedding suffered irreparable harm. Many guests left early and my parents were humiliated. We had to order emergency takeout and rent last-minute equipment. We are requesting $2,430.75 to cover the damages." Then came the kicker. "You've always said family means taking responsibility, so we trust you'll do the right thing." The right thing. I'd done the right thing 100 times for people who never did it for me. This time I did the honest thing. I hit reply, attached a screenshot of my catering confirmation date, payment history, and cancellation notice, then typed one line. Consider this your final refund. And I never opened another email from her again. I stayed in Portugal for 3 nights, long enough to breathe, to remember what my life felt like before I became everyone else's crutch. I didn't go sightseeing, didn't drink my weight in cheap wine. I just sat on beaches and let the silence heal what their words had bruised. But I couldn't stay gone forever. So I came home and waited, because I knew what was coming. That Saturday, my mom texted, "Dinner. 6 p.m., no excuses, we're all waiting." At first I was going to ignore it. Then I changed my mind. I packed a small backpack. Inside my laptop, a flash drive, and every receipt, message, and favor I had stored up over the years. Not out of spite, but for clarity. If they wanted to talk, we were going to talk for real. The dining room was set like we were filming a commercial. Candles, roast chicken, plates I hadn't seen since childhood. They were all there. Dad arms crossed, Haley stiff and pouting, Drew in a blazer like he was trying to impress someone. Mom eyes already watery like she had rehearsed her breakdown. "Lucas," she said softly as I walked in. "Let's not drag this out," I replied. "I'll be brief." I dropped my backpack on the table and unzipped it. Drew leaned back in his chair. "Is that really necessary?" "You tell me," I said, pulling out my laptop. I opened a video file from the wedding rehearsal. The audio was faint but clear enough. Drew's voice laughing. "Yeah, my brother's covering the catering. He's desperate to feel useful." Haley's mom replied, "Poor guy, let him have it. It's the closest he'll ever get to being part of something meaningful." Then Haley chimed in. "He doesn't look good next to us, but his money spends the same." I hit pause. The room went quiet. Even the fake smiles dropped. I looked up. "Still want to talk about responsibility?" Dad rubbed his forehead. "Where did you get that?" "My friend filmed the rehearsal for fun. Didn't know the mic was on." Drew stood up. "This is ridiculous." "No," I said. "What's ridiculous is giving up 5 vacations, 3 raises, and my dignity so you could call me family in private and a janitor in public." Haley spoke up next. "You're twisting everything. That video doesn't show the whole picture." "I agree," I said. Then I opened another file. Screenshots of texts from Drew's phone forwarded by someone in the wedding party. One read, "Told Lucas we were broke. We're actually fine. Just figured he'd cover it like always." Another, "If he complains, remind him of all the things Mom did for him. He folds under guilt." Drew lunged for the laptop. I shut it fast. Dad stood, voice raised. "Enough? This isn't productive." I looked him in the eye. "Is that what you call decades of silence and shame productive?" He looked away. Then Mom tried. You're blowing this out of proportion. You've always been so intense. And you've always looked the other way when I got used up." Her face trembled. I softened for a second, but not enough to let them rewrite the story. "I have given and given," I said, voice low but steady. "And when I asked for basic respect, you gave me pity or nothing." Haley's voice was sharp now. "You ruined our wedding." "No," I said. "I canceled a catering order. You ruined everything else by treating your biggest supporter like an ATM." I stood up, slung my backpack over one shoulder, and said, "This is the last time I sit at this table pretending we're something we're not." Drew muttered, "You always think you're better." I looked at him one last time. "No, I just finally realized I deserve better." Then I walked out the front door and didn't look back. Later that night, I drove to a quiet hill outside the city. Parked, rolled the windows down, just me and the sky. And for the first time in years, I didn't have to explain myself to anyone. No voice calling, no crisis to fix, no family dinners where my worth was tied to my wallet. I was just me, and it was enough. The next morning, the calls started again. Missed call. Mom. Missed call, Dad. Text. "You've made your point. Are you happy now?" That one came from Drew, of course. No apology. Just that same arrogant tone, like I had pulled a prank instead of shining a light on the mess they left for me to clean up. I didn't reply. I didn't block them either. I wanted them to feel the space they left when they chose silence over support. That week, I got a voicemail from my Aunt Carol. She rarely got involved in anything. "Lucas, I heard what happened. I just wanted to say, I saw it coming. You've always carried more than your share. You deserve peace, not pressure. I hope you find it." Then she hung up. No strings. No, but family is family. Just kindness, that's it. It made me cry, actually. Not because it hurt, but because it reminded me what love should feel like. 2 days later, my cousin Ray messaged me on Facebook. We hadn't talked in over a year. I saw the clip from the wedding. Someone posted it on TikTok. "You weren't crazy, you were just the only honest one in the room." She added, "After the video, I finally told my mom I'm not helping with the house payments anymore. I was scared to say no until I watched you do it." I stared at that message for a long time. All this time, I thought I was the only one suffocating under Family First. But turns out a lot of people were holding their breath. The clip had gone viral. Not just viral in the way the internet eats up real justice. It was just a few seconds. Me standing at the family dinner laptop, open voice calm. "You don't get to treat me like a janitor and then expect me to serve you." Someone had added subtitles and spliced it with stock footage of fireworks. Ridiculous. But the comment section, it was full of people like me. People who had paid siblings' bills, who had stayed quiet at family dinners, who had swallowed jokes like poison pills and still showed up to help. I didn't reply to any of them, but I read every word. And with each one, I felt a piece of the weight I'd been carrying slip away. Then something I never expected happened. Sophie called. Not texted, not liked a post. She called. We hadn't spoken in almost a year. We'd dated for 2. She left because she couldn't handle watching me disappear into my family's needs. Said it was like watching someone drown on land. When I answered, her voice was soft. "I saw the clip. I don't know if you want to talk, but I needed to say, I'm proud of you." I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything, I just listened. She continued, "You finally stood up, and it was beautiful." I laughed, a little bitter. "Took me 36 years. Still counts," she said. We met for coffee 2 days later, not as exes trying again, just as people who had been through something and made it to the other side. Back home, Drew's life was crumbling. Haley left him. Apparently, once the video spread, her parents decided their family name was too good to be tied to the guy mocking janitors and pocketing catering money. He tried texting me again. "You win." That was it. I didn't respond. Because it wasn't a game. He lost me the second he decided his pride mattered more than my dignity. Then came the last straw. My mom showed up at my apartment. She didn't call first, didn't ask to come in. She just knocked and stood there like I owed her an audience. "I just want to talk," she said. I stepped outside but didn't open the door wider. "I heard from your father," she said. "He's not speaking to anyone. Drew hasn't left the house. Everyone's upset." Then they should have thought about that before laughing. She frowned. "You broke this family." I shook my head. "No, I just stopped fixing it." She blinked like I'd slapped her. "You really won't help us anymore?" she asked. "Not even now?" "No." Her eyes filled. "I don't recognize you." And for the first time I smiled. That's because I finally recognized myself. Then I shut the door. Not loud, not in anger. Just done. The next week I bought a whiteboard. Wrote one word on it in bold black letters. Boundaries. Underneath, I listed the names of 10 people I'd spent years trying to please. Next to each name I made 2 columns. Respects me, uses me. Only 2 names had a check under the first column. One of them was mine. The other was Sophie. We didn't get back together, but we talked, often. She came by one night with a bottle of wine and 2 mugs. We drank and listened to music and talked about everything we hadn't been able to say before. "You know," she said, "I left because I couldn't take watching you give everything away to people who gave you nothing." I nodded. I thought I was being loyal. "You were being sacrificed," she said. I looked at her. Not anymore. The internet chatter eventually faded, but something stayed. The quiet. The absence of obligation. I started waking up and not reaching for my phone in dread. I made my own coffee, not 5 for the family. I opened my fridge and saw what I bought for myself. Not what was left after sending money to Drew or Mom or anyone else. It felt strange at first. Then it felt like air. I still work as a custodian. People ask if I plan to leave that job now that I've gone viral. The truth, I'm proud of what I do. I clean messes, not just floors. But now I know when the mess isn't mine to fix. By month 2, the silence wasn't empty anymore. It was calm. Like the quiet after a storm when everything's still standing, but the air smells like something has finally shifted for good. That's what my life became. A quiet, stable space where no one called me only when their world fell apart. No one handed me their broken pieces and demanded I hold them without complaint. Just me, a cup of coffee, and a future I finally owned. Drew never reached out again. Not even on my birthday. "No, I'm sorry. No, I messed up." Not even a passive-aggressive quote about forgiveness. And honestly, that was the most honest thing he'd done in years. My mom texted once. "Just wanted to say I love you, even if we don't talk right now." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't love her in some buried way, but because love without accountability just becomes another form of control. She still didn't understand that, and maybe she never would. What surprised me most weren't the apologies that never came. It was the people who did show up. Cousin Ray, for instance. She stopped by one afternoon with 2 coffees and a bag of groceries. "I figured you might not want to go to the store today," she said, shrugging like it wasn't a big deal. We ended up talking on the couch for 2 hours. She told me her mom had asked if she was still speaking to the traitor. I told her if choosing peace makes someone a traitor, she said then maybe she should ask why she's so scared of silence. That's when I realized I hadn't just walked away. I'd quietly given others permission to do the same. Sophie kept coming around too. Not every day, not with pressure. Just enough to feel like the world wasn't such a lonely place after all. One night we sat on my balcony in silence sipping tea. "You're not who you used to be," she said. I smiled. "Good." She looked out at the stars. "You used to apologize every time you said no." I nodded. "I don't anymore." She reached over, gently touched my hand. "I'm proud of you, Lucas." So was I. I took a week off work in the spring. Used the time to do something I'd never done before. Nothing. No family emergencies, no errands for people who didn't say thank you. Just books, long walks, and silence. I bought myself a pair of good headphones and listened to the ocean sounds every night before bed. That might sound small, but for someone who used to fall asleep wondering who needed something next, it was everything. Then one day I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single framed photo. One of the original wedding pictures. Uncropped. Me in the back corner holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres. A yellow sticky note attached to the frame read, "You never belonged in the background. I'm sorry I helped put you there." No name. But I recognized the handwriting. It was Haley's. I didn't cry. I just stared at the photo for a long time, then set it face down in a drawer I don't open often. I don't need that version of me on the wall. Not anymore. 3 months out, I met Sophie for lunch. She slid a postcard across the table. On it was a sunset over cliffs in Greece. "Still dreaming about this place?" she asked. I nodded. "Always." She leaned in. "I'm going this fall. You should come." I hesitated. "Wouldn't that be complicated?" She smiled. "Only if we make it that way." And just like that, a new page began to turn. That night I wrote myself a letter. I didn't plan to share it. I just needed to say it to see it in black and white. "Dear Lucas, you're not selfish. You're not a failure. You're a man who gave too much and asked too little. You kept everyone afloat until you were the one drowning. But now you swim for you. Not to prove your worth, not to save anyone, just to breathe." I folded it, tucked it into my wallet. Still carry it now. I get asked a lot now by people online, by acquaintances, even by strangers who DM me. "Do you regret it?" Do I regret canceling the catering? Exposing the truth. Walking away. Not once. Because here's what I know now. If the only time they call you family is when you're useful, you're not family. You're a subscription. And when you cancel, they treat it like theft. But it's not theft to take back your time, your energy, your life. It's healing. The final message I ever got from Drew was 5 words. "Hope you're proud of yourself." I smiled when I read it. Because yeah, I was. I am. Every single day. There's no big dramatic ending to this story. No family reunion, no teary hug, no last-minute apology in the rain. Just peace. Real quiet, unshakable peace. And in the end, that was all I ever wanted.